Hello, all you glory blazers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello's Data.
Hi!
Today we're going to recap and discuss Star Trek DS9, Season 5, Episode 23, Blaze of Glory. Alternate title, Maquis Love, Not War.
That's a little bit tortured, I feel like.
Nah. Just in case this is your first time watching Star Trek DS9, we'll attempt to only discuss spoilers up through this episode, but proceed at your own risk. Spoilers for all books, movies, TV shows, etc. Can happen.
I want it to be something about a Maquis roll. But
Maquis...
Yeah.
Maquis on a roll. I don't know. Blaze of Glory originally aired May 12th, 1997. It was written by Robert Hewitt Wolfe and Ira Stephen Bear in the rare switcheroo order, and directed by Kim Friedman.
Hey, we talked about the order before.
Yeah, and Robert Hewitt Wolfe had his, I think, solo episode earlier, and then Ira Stephen Bear teamed up with Hans Beimler for something, so good to see him back together.
Yeah. This is Kim Friedman's last episode of Deep Space Nine.
By Kim Friedman. Does he go to Voyager?
She directed some Voyager, but her last episode of Voyager was season 2 of Voyager, which I think was before this.
Oh. So, that's a wrap on Kim Friedman.
Yep. Yeah, it says in her article she directed 10 episodes between Deep Space Nine and Voyager from 95 to 97.
Cool.
And then would go on to direct some Babylon 5, some Sabrina the Teenage Witch, some Beverly Hills 90210. So,
wow.
All the hits.
Yeah. 90s-ing it up.
Yeah.
And Sarah Clofton is in this episode.
Oh my gosh, finally.
And there he is, eating a nice dinner of squid and tube grub puree with Nog and Captain Dad. Apparently Nog has been working security as part of his academy work study or whatever, and he has a problem. The Klingons around the station are loud and obnoxious, and they never pay attention to Nog when he comes to tell them to keep it down. Captain Sisko advises earning the Klingons' respect by confronting them, the Klingon way. And here's his first opportunity as Martok swings by and asks to speak to the captain.
Yeah, I mean, that you're really going for the gold.
Right.
When Martok shows up to have like a, high-level conference with the captain, and you're like, I'm going to get involved in this to show him who's boss.
Yep, Nog is about to let Martok have it for ringing the doorbell and asking to speak to the captain.
Can't have that.
But Jake and Ben stop him before anything bad happens.
Yeah, like the captain's like, this is not.
Yeah, no, this is not what I was talking about.
I agree with Nog. Squid is really good. And I agree with Captain Dad that, Nog's trying human food. We should incorporate some Ferengi food, but, in a professional chef sort of way.
Sure. It would have been nice if you would have said that was tube grub puree, but...
Well, then Jake wouldn't have eaten it and discovered how delicious it was.
True. Ben knows his son. But Martok has some not good information. His people intercepted a signal from the Maquis. This is surprising because the Maquis were thought to have been wiped out by the Dominion.
We are finding out for the first time.
Right. Although it stands to reason as... that was one of the promises made by Dukat when they joined the Dominion, so...
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised, but it's just like, we just haven't heard anything until it's like, oh yeah, by the way, that happened some time ago.
Yeah, the writers remembered that the Maquis existed.
Well, apparently, Ira Stephen Bear, claims credit for the concept of this episode and says that he really wanted closure on at least one of the open threads as they went into season 6. He's like, there's too many things left open. So he says, we were just desperate to finish something off. We had to finish a thread. It was necessary. We just had so many things. So I told them, we're going to end something and then not hear about it again.
I respect it.
Ira Stephen Bear, in fact, wanted to kill off every single remaining Maquis.
Oh, wow.
Rick Berman was like, well, hold on. We might want to use some of those for some reason on Voyager in some way.
Sure.
So can we, leave it unclear what happens to some of them? And he's like, yeah, fine.
That's probably a smart idea for Rick Berman.
Yeah.
But yes, this message that they intercepted is addressed to some mysterious person named Michael, and says that missiles are on their way to Cardassia to get revenge for the Maquis. Sisko asks if any missiles have been detected, and Martok is like, well, okay. That brings up an awkward subject.
Yep.
Because apparently, when the Klingons and the Maquis were both fighting the Cardassians, the Klingons gave the Maquis some cloaking devices. So there could be a bunch of invisible missiles out there.
Man, they're handing out these cloaking devices like candy. Like, they gave them 30 cloaking devices. That's a bunch.
Yep. So, could be a bad situation. Sisko and Martok agree that this is not good, as such an attack would surely lead to a war between the Federation and the Dominion. Worf and Dax take the Defiant out to the Badlands to look for the missiles, but no luck. Also, the Badlands are crawling with Jim Hadar, and the cloaking device doesn't seem to do much good in the nebula. Also, didn't we tell the Romulans we wouldn't use the cloaking device in the Alpha Quadrant?
We're so far beyond that at this point.
And, maybe they got permission first, who knows, but... And Sisko's like, damn it, I'm going to have to go have an annoying Hannibal Lecter-style conversation with Michael Eddington, aren't I?
Yeah.
So he heads off to some Federation space prison and talks to Eddington, who is just as insufferable as ever. Possibly more so.
Yeah, so apparently, the establishing shot of this starbase where he's being held prisoner is a reuse of the stock footage of Regula 1 from Star Trek 2.
Just the quality of the shot looked different from the rest of the episode. I was like, that's got to be reused from somewhere.
So Eddington is being held prisoner where they developed the Genesis device.
Nice.
Got to do something with the space station, I guess.
Yeah,
after all those murders, nobody wanted to just work there normally.
Yeah. When you have a space station, you want to get as much use out of it as you can.
Also, the holding cell is a redress of the Voyager brig. Moving the cell from a point to frame right of the door to directly across it is.
Did they move the cell or the door?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand this sentence. A redress of the USS Voyager brig set, moving the cell from a point to frame right of the door to directly across. Okay, so it used to be to the right of the entrance door, and now the door is directly across it, I guess, and that's how it's different.
Sure.
Okay, now I'm following it.
So Eddington claims ignorance and says that the message must be for a different Michael. Also, he's not...
There's lots of Michaels out there.
Yeah, true. I mean, you just assume any random phone call for a Michael is for me? Why would you think that it was for me, the leader of the Maquis? And also, he's not in a Dominion helping mood after they wiped out the Maquis. And also, you can't stop the missiles without sending an abort code from the launch site. So, okay, you do know about the missiles? You did a pretty quick reversal on that.
I mean, it makes sense when you find out the whole plan, but yeah.
Right. Sisko offers Eddington a pardon for his assistance, giving Eddington exactly the opportunity he needs to carry out his secret, time-sensitive agenda. But as his comrades in arms are getting mercilessly slaughtered by the Jem'Hadar, Eddington decides to delay the whole situation with pointless mind games, saying he'd rather stay in prison waiting for the Jem'Hadar to blow him up.
Yeah, he goes really hard on the, no, screw you, I will never do that. And like you point out, there's not any reason for it. I mean, would Sisko be suspicious if he was like, hey, we can give you your freedom if you help us? And Eddington was like, well, I would like to be free and not in jail. Right. Okay. I feel like this is a believable situation, but I don't know.
Yeah, and you can make, if you're worried he won't, if you're worried he'll get suspicious, you can make some token demands to just be like, okay, and I want a passage to a neutral planet and 50 bars of latinum or something.
A big bag of latinum.
Right. But no, he's just going to pointlessly play hard to get for some reason.
Yeah, it's very lucky that Sisko forces him to come.
Right. Meanwhile, Quark is in the infirmary being a not very cooperative patient, and then Odo and Kira come in to figure out what's going on. It seems that Morn attacked Quark and then ran into the Bajoran shrine naked, screaming, "We're all doomed." Quark admits he may have gone a little overboard with his predictions of an impending attack by the Dominion.
Look, I mean, Quark is quirking it up. I feel like Kira and Odo in particular take it a little far when they're basically implying that he deserved to be assaulted because he said a thing.
It just kind of comes off as like everybody's a little bored right now, and this Morn situation is giving them something to have some fun with or something. I don't know.
I love the note on this. When Morn screams, we're all doomed. It is a tribute to the 1991 The Naked Gun 2.5 The Smell of Fear movie, where Lloyd Boucher screams in a panic, "It's a cookbook! It's a cookbook!" which itself is a reference to the classic Twilight Zone episode.
Is it a reference? Is it a reference to that though?
What, the Naked Gun bit?
No, Morn screaming, "We're all doomed."
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, they're like, yeah, the Naked Gun thing is a parody because he was in that episode of the same actor was in that episode of the Twilight Zone. But I'm like, how is the Morn thing though, like, related to? I feel like you took some unrelated to Star Trek fact and was like, yeah, this is probably related.
Yeah, couldn't it be a reference to any other time in film or television when somebody screamed something along those lines?
Game over, man.
Right. Yeah, how come it's not a reference to aliens? I think this is another case of the Memory Alpha writers going a little overboard.
Yeah, they're too clever for themselves sometimes.
Right. Then Kira gets pulled away by a call from Sisko, who says he's going into the Badlands with a runabout to try to find the missile launch site. Kira is a little nervous about Sisko going on this mission alone, but Sisko says, "Don't worry, I'm not alone." And then he does what I assume was a carefully planned reveal, where he spins his chair around and the FaceTime camera shifts over to reveal, sitting behind Sisko, Michael Eddington in handcuffs.
Yeah, he spent so long setting that up before he started the call.
Yeah. And Kira gets this look on her face like, what? How did he even get the camera to do that?
I was like, didn't she know that he was going to find Michael Eddington? Like, I feel like this shouldn't be the surprise part.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, it seems like that was kind of his plan all along, was to get Eddington to help them find the thing and stop the missiles.
Yeah, I mean, he showed up and was like, "We'll give you freedom if you help us do this thing." Right. And then he's in the ship. Oh my gosh. It's silly. Maybe this is the nitpick of the week, but it's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, this would make an okay nitpick of the week. In the runabout, Eddington rants obnoxiously about a variety of topics. First, he decides that his couple of months gardening tomatoes in the Maquis entitles him to lecture Captain Sisko, who grew up in a kitchen and is an avid foodie and amateur chef, about the difference between real and not real food.
Yeah, I was like, when he started on this thing, I was like, wait, he wasn't in the Maquis that long.
Right.
Like he acts like he was a farmer for years. And I'm like, and most of the time you were in the Maquis, it was like attacking Cardassians. When did you even have time to farm? And he's just like, man, I'm growing those tomatoes. You don't know how hard it is to grow tomatoes. And it's like,
I guarantee you Sisko knows more about growing tomatoes than you do.
Yeah, and he points out that Sisko grew like all of the ingredients for this big Thanksgiving dinner himself the previous year. So it's like, pretty sure that took him longer than the amount of time you were able to spend farming out on some planet somewhere. So
yeah,
and him complaining about the replicated food, he's like, it tastes like replicated protein molecules, and I'm just like, I feel like we've never, until maybe Sisko in this series, we've never heard anyone say that like replicated food was significantly different from like non-replicated food. And I mean, I don't know why it would be, honestly, if you're recreating at an atomic level like the structure of the food. Like I could see you saying like it always tastes the same, because if you're cooking then there'll be slight differences every meal. But if you're replicating from a pattern, then it should taste exactly the same every time. But I don't see why it would taste, like, less good.
Yeah, I think that's just down to a kind of a fuzziness of how the replicator works.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there has been a little bit of a thread of the real thing is always better than replicated throughout.
Maybe.
I think even in Next Gen they said that sometimes. But anyway, next he accuses Sisko of setting up the Maquis for the slaughter, but doesn't elaborate on how that was Sisko's fault.
Well, no, and I love the way that Sisko manages to turn it back around on him and be like, he's like, I was the leader. And Sisko's like, yeah, and you led them right to their deaths. Good job.
Then he taunts Sisko for his good friend Cal Hudson being dead. Sisko says he was a good man in bitter tones that clearly communicate, I wish I was dealing with him right now and not you.
I mean, wouldn't that have been a way to go with this episode, is to bring that guy back?
Yeah.
And, but no, it's like, hell yeah, he was killed off screen by Cardassians.
Right. I guess they're just all in on Michael Eddington now.
But at least Sisko got some closure about, like, that one other guy he knows.
True. I mean, we're tying up loose threads, right? So.
Yep.
And then he accuses Sisko of taking the fight with the Maquis too personally. Sisko snaps and calls Eddington on his lame wannabe hero complex masquerading as some kind of ideology, and his very unheroic missile attack on Cardassia. But Eddington just shrugs it off and is like, sometimes you have to settle for revenge, and he can live with being the man who started the worst war in Federation history. And Sisko says, can you?
I mean, we established the last time Eddington appeared that, like, all of his attacks were pretty cowardly, where he's, like, poisoning the atmosphere of planets or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Then Eddington gets a conflicted look on his face that I think on first viewing we're supposed to interpret as self-doubt. But given that this whole thing is a ruse, I don't really know what he's doing.
Who knows? Who knows what this guy's doing?
There are no missiles, so there's really nothing for him to feel guilty about, except, as you just said, all the horrible things he's done before. Back at Quark's, some Klingons are having a headbutting contest, cheered on by Martok.
As you do, yeah.
Yeah, seems normal to me. Nog waits patiently for the noise to get loud enough for him to legally be able to intervene. But when his moment comes, he falls down in his chair.
Yeah. So, according to... This is another one of these stretches. The way Nog rocks in his chair in the scene in Quarks with Martok was an homage to Henry Fonda's character in My Darling Clementine, which I've never seen, so maybe it is some sort of specific rocking motion, but I'm like, people do this in their chairs in lots of situations.
Yeah, I'm going to start needing, citation needed on some of these claimed homages and references.
Although, actually, hold on. There was a citation on that. It says Star Trek Deep Space Nine Companion, a series guide and script library. So maybe.
Who wrote that?
Fair question. Hold on. Let's bring up the article about the series guide and script library here. Oh, some of these things, like the thing about the Twilight Zone, it does say citation needed right after that.
Oh, nice.
So, there's that. Okay, let's see. The script library. And... it was a CD-ROM release containing scripts and video trailers for every episode. The companion was later included as part of the Star Trek Federation gift pack.
Huh.
Full text library of original shooting scripts for every episode, all fully searchable. Includes the shooting script for the heartrending final episode, What You Leave Behind. Spoilers, it's heartrending, apparently.
Heartrending, ooh.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot more details in here. It's just a Simon & Schuster, CD-ROM thing.
Well, at least it came from something semi-official, I guess.
Yeah. I don't... Do the scripts call out? He does this like Henry Fonda in my... I can believe that Ira Steven Behr would do that. Right. It's like, you need to go watch this movie to understand how to rock in your chair in this scene.
He's like, I saw this movie on Turner Classic Movies last night.
Yep.
In the runabout, Sisko awakens Eddington, who immediately resumes his childish, pouty sarcasm routine. Sisko is like, okay, well, some Jim'Hadar ships are coming, and I don't know how to get away from them. And he takes off Eddington's handcuffs. He says that he believes Eddington's death wish is a bluff, as is his claim that he doesn't care about the missiles. Eddington caves and takes the controls, saying he'll evade the Jim'Hadar and take Sisko to stop the missiles. But when they're done, he and Sisko are going to have it out. Fine, I'll fight you, says Sisko. I don't intend to fight you, says Eddington. I intend to kill you. Well, consider the following, says Sisko. If you try to kill me, I'm going to fight you to try to stop that from happening.
I do like that Sisko is 100% correct that the thing is a bluff. It's not for the reason that he thinks. Right. He's managed to spot this.
Yep. Oh, and then Eddington asks if Sisko has seen his lucky loony anywhere.
Which, such a random little bit of business that they threw in the script, where he's like, oh yeah, this Canadian coin has been in my family for generations. And Sisko is like, yeah, I think we stuck all your stuff in a box on Deep Space Nine somewhere. Which, that seems like a weird thing. I feel like you would ship that to the prison wherever he was going, but...
Yeah. Although, a clever writer might use that to set up, like, if they ever did something later where Michael Eddington left behind some clue or something. Like hidden in his lucky loony.
Inside the loony was a secret map to Maquis pirate treasure.
Yep. That would be a good episode. I need to put that on the the episodes that need to be made list.
I mean, he dies, so that's that loony's still floating out there. You could go onto like lower decks and do that exact episode.
Oh yeah. Well, now you can't, but
okay, yeah.
Rest in peace, Lower Decks. I guess I can watch it now that it's over.
Well, they have one final season that they're getting, so it's not. Okay. We're not over just yet.
Okay, but yeah, they're interrupted by Jem'Hadar. Eddington quickly improvises a plan to get away from the attacking Jem'Hadar by something flow regulators, which is really dangerous, and Sisko is going to have to do it. So Sisko climbs into a tunnel that appears to be longer than the entire runabout, and does the thing.
But it's super dangerous, because if you move around too much, something will explode. Except then they move around a lot, and he's like, hey, stop that, and nothing explodes.
Yeah. Things get hairy, but they're able to pull it off. Although Sisko does get banged up a little, and is kind of mad. I mean, yeah, he gets banged up pretty well, but... I mean, you're the one who told him to drive, so... Right. Yeah, I think in this case... I kind of do side with Eddington. Like he was doing his best thing he could do. Like he wasn't bouncing you around on purpose. They should have padded those conduits if, they didn't want these things to happen. Right. Although you're not supposed to do that while the ship is in motion or whatever. That's true. But I assume there's other things in the conduit you might have to access. Yeah, probably. It is a very long conduit after all. Back in the Jake and Nog shenanigans, Jake asks Nog to please check before coming home when he knows Jake has a girl over. Which, roommate tip, like, talk about this stuff ahead of time. Yeah. I mean, they've been living together for months at this point. Yeah. Maybe this is the first time it's come up. Jake hasn't had any girls over since they moved in together. Yes. It's been many years, but it used to be like, hey, can you, not come over till, 11 tonight? And I'd be like, okay, I'll walk around for... I'll do some stuff, whatever. Right. So apparently this entire B story in this episode, according to the wiki, is purely so that to reassure viewers that General Martok is still on the station after Soldiers of the Empire. Okay. He's not off flying around to that ship full time. He'll still be around. Okay, sure. Consider me reassured. Yeah. It's like people might stop watching the show if they think Martok is gone for good. No, I can't have that. Martok's what they come for. Have you seen that clip of Martok on Quantum Leap? The actor or the character? Well, the actor. Oh, I was like, wait, Martok shows up in Quantum Leap? That would be a Quantum Leap I'm in for. Gigi Hertzler on Quantum Leap. Oh, wow, he's got a little mustache and the gray hair. The episode's called Sea Bride. You have no honor. That's okay. Yeah, that's excellent. Okay. I'll link to that in the description. It's like he starts off kind of playing this British gentleman or whatever, and he just slips directly into Martok.
Yeah, it is so Martok. Okay, hold on. I want to see when this episode. I mean, this is a 1990 episode, so well before Martok existed.
Right. So I think that's just his natural mode.
His natural mode is you have no honor.
You have no honor. It's like, what, JG? That's not even the line. What are you doing?
I just feel it.
Maybe someone from Deep Space Nine saw that episode and was like, "We need to get that guy."
Yep, that's how they picked him. It's like, yeah, they showed an episode of that on TCM, and our Stephen Bear was watching, and it was like, "Wait a second, I know." Oh yeah, and that was I didn't somebody's comment. The first comment on the YouTube video is General Martok and Captain Archer.
Oh
and
yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, I guess he is Captain Archer. Good point.
It's so weird. I never think about Dr. What's his name? Dr. Samuel Beckett.
Yeah, that's the thing, is unlike, I think, every other captain, I had seen him in many things before and since as, like, other characters. So, like, not that long ago, he was the main guy on NCIS New Orleans, which I really enjoyed that show. So, he doesn't feel as, like, isolated to that role as a lot of the other ones do to me. Like, in my brain, he's not immediately that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, because, I mean, it's like no other captain has any roles near as iconic as their captain role, so...
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Then Nog notices Martok and some Klingons loitering on his favorite loitering spot. He marches up there and assertively quotes the station regulations at them. Martok laughs and commends Nog on his courage, but don't tempt fate. And Nog struts off.
So, I love that he is like, wait, they're doing the crime that I commit. No, no. But also that he thinks that they know that he likes that spot and they are loitering there on purpose to offend him. I was like, dude, no. They don't even know you exist.
This entire thing is in Nog's head.
It really is. Like, yeah.
From beginning to end.
And then there's another great citation needed in here where it says, when Martok remarks Nog is either very brave or very foolish, this is a tribute to the classic 1960s movie, The Blue Max, in which that line was first spoken.
Okay.
So I'm sure no one else had ever said that before The Blue Max.
So Eddington and Sisko arrive at Athos 4, not D'Artagnan 4.
Or Porthos or Aramis, yeah.
And Eddington takes them down for a landing. They walk through the cave set for a little bit. Then they come to a place. I'm not clear if this place is supposed to be above or below ground or inside or outside, but it's really foggy.
So, this says, to construct the Maquis base in this episode, production designer Herman Zimmerman used the same set as had been used in the previous episode, Children of Time.
Oh, wow.
So, you may be able to spot some similarities between, despite the fact that this is a cave and that was not.
Well, if this is even a cave, I said.
Okay, yeah. As you pointed out, it's unclear what exactly is going on with this.
Because if it's a cave, it's a foggy cave. So I don't know. But yeah, there's a couple of Jem'Hadar walking around. Sisko grabs a pipe and starts bonking the Jem'Hadar with it.
Great plan. Solid.
Yeah. Eddington shoots one of them, and Sisko gets into a hand-to-hand fight with the other. Eddington watches through the fog, through which you can easily tell who is Sisko and who is the Jem'Hadar. But Eddington apparently is having some trouble, so he waits for Sisko to go down and then shoots the Jem'Hadar. So, in typical fashion, the elite soldiers of the Dominion are defeated by two guys who only have one gun between them.
Yep, easily defeated. And then, what I have to admit is a hilarious moment where Sisko shoots like the shrouded Jem'Hadar and kills them.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I'm glad one of us remembered they could do that. But those guys were apparently just standing there invisible and not bothering to get involved in the fight.
It's like, what were those guys doing? They were like, they clearly must have been able to see like what was going on. They're just like, let's just stay shrouded, see how this plays out. It's like, oh shoot, they shot us.
It's like, I hate Steve. Oh, I hope these guys kill him, and then we'll get them. But yeah, it is I don't understand what they were doing. It's ridiculous, but for me, I'm okay with it because I really love the line.
Yeah, that was a great moment. So yeah, they look around the settlement and they find that the streets or hallways or caves or whatever are littered with dead Maquis. Eddington is like, oh dang it, why did I waste so much time with all those mind games? But Sisko's like, dude, the missiles. He's like, oh yeah, the missile control room is over there. And then that's when we get the moment
I'm going to keep up this pretense, even though at this point...
Yeah, there's absolutely no point at this point. But yeah, that's then when they go to the missile room, that's when they find those shrouded Jem'Hadar. But then they run into the room, but there are no missiles in there. Just a bunch of Maquis, including Eddington's wife. For you see, it was all an elaborate ruse. Some would say absurdly elaborate.
Well, although her confidence that in sending this message would somehow start the dominoes falling to get Eddington here was impressive.
Well, this must have been arranged months in advance. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense.
I mean, like, before his capture, they must have had this plan. Yeah. It's like, if I'm ever captured, do this thing.
If it's ever the last days of the Maquis, and we need to evacuate, go to this planet, assuming I'm in jail, send me a signal that the missiles are on their way, and then I will come and trick a Starfleet captain into bringing a ship here so that we can all get away.
Yeah, easy peasy.
So, yeah, but the whole point is to get the runabout here to help evacuate the last of the Maquis, which I'm 100%, or I'm 98% sure that if they just would have said, hey, can the Federation please just rescue us before we fall into the hands of the Dominion, the Federation would have done that. But
yeah, they might have even sent like more than just a runabout, which you're going to have a hard time fitting all these guys on there.
Yeah, a much more direct and simple way to do things. So they all head back to the runabout, but they encounter more Jem'Hadar along the way. Sisko and Eddington stay behind to hold them off, but Eddington takes a hit. He tells Sisko to get to the runabout and get his people to safety, which Sisko does. Eddington stays and keeps fighting the Jem'Hadar, pretending to boss around some imaginary soldiers.
I mean, hey, it's a bold move to come up with on the fly. To be like, hey, I actually have a bunch more people than I do. It's not going to help for long against the Jem'Hadar because they're not scared of a bunch of people. But
it didn't seem to have any effect on the Jem'Hadar, really. Yeah. But then Eddington rushes at the Jem'Hadar and then almost immediately goes down. Michael Eddington. More like Michael Deddington.
Okay, yeah, that was good. It says that Bear based Michael Eddington's death scene on Steve McQueen's death scene in the 1966 Robert Wise movie, The Sand Pebbles. The source for this, the Star Trek Deep Space Nine companion, page number ?
Okay. Although I would believe it. That sounds on brand for Ira Stephen Bear.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Back on Deep Space Nine, Nog finds Kira's earring, which I was never set up as missing to begin with, but whatever.
No, but it just shows how good he is at his job, which is as security, finding lost things, obviously.
Sure. Maybe this will pay off in a big way someday. And then he has a respectful encounter with Martok, I guess proving that whatever he did worked or whatever.
And Kira is so impressed. Like, oh my gosh, you're so hot now. The Klingons respect you.
So I broke up with Shakar.
Yeah, exactly.
Sisko and Dax sit in his quarters eulogizing Michael Eddington. Dax paints him as a romantic who went down in one last hopeless fight. A blaze of glory, you might say.
You might.
Sisko says whatever he was a Maquis to the last. Whatever that means. The end.
And it's funny because there's a long note in here that it says after this episode aired and the Eddington story arc officially ended, many fans found the character of Eddington a little difficult to pin down. Some loved him, some hated him. Many others were a little unsure of him. This sense of uncertainty is shared by Ira Stephen Bear himself, who says, I still haven't figured him out. Do we like him? Do you not like him? Was he good? Bad? A pain in the ass? I'm not sure. And then It notes, even Sisko appears to have trouble reaching a conclusion as regards the essence of Eddington's character. Where the final season of the episode, which we just talked about, but yeah. According to Bear, I felt it was very important to try to make sense of the man Eddington was. We owed it to Sisko to give him some kind of closure, some kind of understanding. On top of everything else, he let the guy die, basically. Which is true.
Well, I mean, I guess, but I mean,
I'm not sure that he held the Dominion back for any appreciable length of time, so I don't know that it would have made a difference if they had taken him along.
Yeah, that's true. Although he was already injured,
that's true.
So I guess the logic was supposed to be that he would have slowed them down or something.
Yeah. Let's see what else is in here. The episode marks the death of Michael Eddington. Spoiler. He's not coming back.
Well, I mean, because, I was thinking, it's like, I bet they could bring him back from that. But
I mean, you've brought people back from being destroyed by the Dominion before when it's like, they take them prisoner. Right. Why not?
And I was thinking, I'm sure there's a novel with Michael Eddington after this.
Huh. Well, hold on.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure in that I know it exists. I'm just...
Let's see if we can find any information about Michael Eddington after this point on Memory Beta. General Martok, Miles O'Brien. There we go, Michael Eddington. Oh yeah, O'Brien has like one moment in the episode where he's like, yeah, the Defiance warp drive is just too powerful.
Right.
So good to see you there.
Yep.
Cyril Lofkin got more time.
I gotta get back to the set of Con Air now.
He's gonna play that jerk agent. Yep. Okay, let's see. Anything after this? Eddington's capture robbed the Maquis of their strongest leader. Sisko cited Eddington along with James Layton, Cal Hudson, and Thomas Roeder as people who had been driven away from Starfleet in a novel. In the Genesis Wave Book 3, Elena Neshaev commented that Eddington was a charismatic leader. Solosos 3, the planet on which Eddington led the Maquis colony, became revered as the site of the Maquis' most noble defeat. No, that's all the normal timeline mentions. There's alternate realities where he shows up. There's one where he's assigned to the Enterprise E.
Oh, wow.
That's an alternate timeline in which the Cardassians never left Bajor.
Oh, did you hear about the alternate timeline in the comics where Morn is on someone's ship, the Enterprise or something?
Ooh.
And he speaks.
Oh, my goodness.
I have not seen these, but I've just heard about them.
While posing as his murdered counterpart, the Odo of the primary universe accused Eddington of staging the attack on him. Odo argued that Eddington would never attain the position of security chief while he was still alive, and commented that although everyone assumed the attack on him was politically motivated, it could have been personal. So this is like a Through the Looking Glass sort of comic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't the Odo of the mirror universe dead?
Yeah. Odo later determined that the alternate Major Kieran Reese was responsible for killing the other Odo, as she feared the So maybe this is a different, mirror universe. I don't know.
Huh.
But yeah, no more references to him. Oh, the episode also marks the final appearance and mention of the Maquis in the series. In regard to the fate of the last dozen of the Maquis still alive, no ending is given as to whether they still resolve to continue their cause, if Starfleet imprisoned them, are they resettled, we don't know.
I would assume they're all going to jail.
So that just there you go, Rick Berman. They're out there for you.
And they even say that in the episode. It's like, well, I guess we're going to jail, but I mean, it beats whatever's going on here. So
I mean, the Federation would have to prove that they did something. They didn't actually launch missiles against anybody.
That's true.
So I mean,
I guess they're not all defectors from Starfleet. So
presumably they've been involved in some terrorist activities, but unless they admit to it or Starfleet has specific evidence against them, I don't know that they would go to jail.
But I guess when Ira Stephen Bear says we're putting the Maquis to bed, he means it.
Yeah. But he left a dozen out there for Rick Berman.
Right.
Here you go. Have at it.
They can come back at any time.
I don't know that they ever do use those, the other Maquis. I mean, there's an episode where Chakotay learns of the death of the Maquis when they can communicate back to Earth. And he learns it from, an old Maquis pal of his who was in prison. But that person could have been imprisoned before,
sure. Yeah. But they're out there, they're in play, just like Eddington's Lucky Looney, so.
Out there in the universe. Maybe we should write this book.
Right.
I'm sure everyone is clamoring for the Maquis book, that the untold story.
Yep.
With the Lucky Looney that will lead the Maquis to ultimate power or something.
Like the 47 Maquis Ronin or something.
The last note in here is based on averaging the differences of the star dates of Children of Time and the episode after this one, Empok Nor. The initial events of Star Trek First Contact should have occurred between this episode and the next one, Empok Nor. However, Sisko's mention in Purgatory Shadow of the recent Borg attack places First Contact before that episode.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm sure they talked about First Contact happening already.
Yeah, unless there was a different Borg attack that we don't know about, then yeah, the star dates are a little bit off.
Huh. Yeah, there's just a Borg attack that wasn't documented in any TV or movie.
Yep.
Those Borg are just always attacking. Okay, so jump into reviews.
Yeah, sure. What do you think of Blaze of Glory, which still just always makes me think of the card game and the expansion called Blaze of Glory,
which has very little to do with this episode, but
not like anything at all.
So on the subject of whether we like Michael Eddington or not, this episode suffers from the fact that I super hate Michael Eddington. I don't hate him as a character, but just as a person. He's just so obnoxious. And I just want every time he says something, I want Sisko to punch him.
Sure.
I do like that they remember to tie up the Maquis storyline, although I kind of would have liked seeing it end with them actually starting a war between the Federation and the Dominion.
Yeah, that would give them something to go out on, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a cool way to like tie together old Deep Space Nine and new Deep Space Nine if they decided to go in the direction of a war between the Federation and the Dominion.
Yeah, which, I mean, they would never do that.
Right. I mean, clearly the writers have decided not to go in that direction, so...
They passed up the perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
So too late now.
It's nice seeing a Sisko-focused episode.
Yeah.
I always like seeing Sisko. A real Sisko character episode, and this is absolutely that. I'm conflicted about whether I think Eddington's ruse was really dumb, or if it was actually kind of clever. But I started on dumb, I went to clever for a while, but I think now after rediscussing it, I'm back to thinking it's dumb.
Okay.
It makes no sense. Nog's story is kind of funny, but I think that might be way too dumb, even for Nog.
It really, yeah, no, you're not wrong.
So, bottom line is, Eddington's monologues are so annoying, they risk dragging the rating down, but I can live with them only because he died at the end. So, I like the episode. I think it has a strong commander feel, but I'm in this weird place where part of me wants to drop it to lieutenant commander, but then kind of there's another part of me that almost wants to give it a captain.
Wow.
So, I think while those two parts of me are locked in eternal combat, I will go ahead and give it a commander. So what do you think?
Interesting that we landed on a commander. I wasn't expecting that. All right.
Okay.
So I'll start with the Nog story because it's small and barely merits a mention. But it is... Nog has always been somewhat comic relief in almost every single appearance in the show.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that they give him this little comic relief side story, but it is just so dumb that it's not good. And like you could have taken this story because his issue with I'm trying to do security and I'm not commanding the respect that I should, and mainly from the Klingons because they don't respect anyone. The premise is you could make something good out of.
Sure.
And develop Nog's character because yes, he is learning this stuff. He's supposed to be learning stuff as part of the academy, as his, that's the whole reason he's here is to learn the different positions and how to get some idea how to do them. Probably get some idea about like what he wants to specialize in when he gets in Starfleet. I assume that this is part of their, like, how do you decide which color you want on your uniform?
Right.
But they just make it so dumb that I'm just like, it's upsetting to watch, honestly. So. Not good on that part. What you say about Eddington is interesting because I hadn't thought about it that much before, but when Eddington was one of the gang, he was just so vanilla and so inconsistently there that you absolutely forget about him.
Right. He was we need an extra guy for this episode guy.
Yeah. And we joked about it a lot, where it was like he would randomly show up after not being gone for several episodes. He's like, I was here the whole time. Right. So, and maybe like having the vanilla guy be the secret bad guy is the way to go, because you're not expecting, you barely pay any attention to him at all. So that works. But it's just such a drastic change from vanilla, maybe slightly friendly guy, where he's like, I am here to make friends, to he just gives speeches in both of his subsequent appearances. Like, almost all of his dialogue is ridiculous, overblown speeches about whether it's for the uniform, where he's, you know, he's doing the Les Mis. Was it Les Mis? No, it's
Les Mis.
It's okay.
Les Miserables.
He's doing that, and he just constantly speeching on that sort of thing, and on how horrible the Federation is and how great the Maquis, whatever. And then here he has even less, like, you've knocked him off that pedestal that he'd set himself on, and so he has to speechify about, like, dumb, inconsequential things for this whole episode,
right? Which
is even worse. So,
like how boring prison is.
Yeah, he's become so obnoxious that I'm just like, I don't want to see you. And it's, like I said, it's just such a dramatic change from, like, guy who we couldn't really care less is there to, like, please shut up, I don't want to see you on screen anymore. That it's almost impressive. But, and once again, this section of the episode, I feel like there was a lot of possibilities in the story that we're setting up. And like you said, I like that they're wrapping up this. I like Ira Stephen Bear's idea that we need to wrap some stuff up moving into season 6. Yeah. We've got threads that we left hanging. And that's been my complaint about the series from season 1, is that they leave this stuff hanging and we never go back to it. So this idea that as we move into, like, the final arc of the show, I want to wrap things up. I don't want to just ignore them and hope that everyone else forgets that they were there. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that effort. So I like that about it. I like the basic concept of the story, that you're giving them a threat that they have to respond to, and naturally they would go to the one person that Cisco knows that would have information, because he was basically the leader of the cause. The pieces make sense of like the outline of the story. I think that it was all a good idea. I think that it's executed kind of poorly in a lot of ways that we've pointed out, where, like, the pieces that make no sense the way that they did them. Like, you could have changed a lot of these interactions slightly. Like we talked about, just like Eddington and Cisco at the beginning of the episode. Like, you change that slightly and the plan instantly is better than it is as we see it now, where we're relying a lot on, like, predicting what Cisco is going to do and what other people will do. And it's like a Batman gambit, where it only works if you know your opponent so well that you can predict every move that they're going to make.
Right.
Which really, I guess, just plays more into Eddington's, like, complex that he has. But, so maybe it makes sense. But anyway.
Yeah.
I like the bones of the A story and the B story here. They both have potential. I feel like we squandered the potential in a lot of ways. But there's enough good bits and pieces in here, and the concept gets enough goodwill from me that I don't think it falls under the line, but it's real close to that. So it's going to be a lieutenant commander.
All right. Yeah, I think the main thing I like about it is it just is that refreshing piece of closure, which you so rarely get. And it's just like, we finished that story. Yeah. Which I never liked to begin with, and I'm glad to see it ended.
Eddington is dead.
Right.
All right.
Eddington is dead. The whiny Maquis are dead or in jail. We've accomplished something.
The ones on Voyager are going to come back eventually and restart the campaign. But until then, we're good.
Right. The annoying thing is that as dumb as the Nog story was, it did amuse me.
Yeah.
Which, it makes me feel a little gross. But
well, yeah, it's just like when Nog decides that he's like, we talked about it, but when Martok comes into Sisko's quarters and Nog is like, here's where I stand up to a Klingon. It's so dumb, but it is funny.
Yeah. Okay, so title review, Blaze of Glory.
I mean, it's fitting, like that. This is the Maquis in general, but Eddington in specific, going out in a blaze of glory as much as possible. So I mean, yeah, I think it works. It's fairly clever, and I think it's applicable. I don't know if it's only memorable to me because of the expansion from the card game. So it's hard for me to place it on that scale, but I think it's a fine episode name.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna lack some memorability, but a thing I will say about this episode is I didn't remember this episode at all, and I actually didn't remember the previous episode either. So I don't know if I just missed some episodes like a long time ago when I was watching these, except I did remember the scene, or I thought I remembered the scene with Quark in the infirmary, and they're talking about Morn running into the shrine. But I might have just seen that in clips on the internet or something. But
that's probably the one part of the episode that I did not remember, because like the finale of Michael Eddington definitely sticks out in my mind, and so does the episode where Odo admits to Kira his feelings. Like that one's always, as I don't love the episode, but it's always like I remember it.
So for some reason I can't quite put my finger on it, but I feel like a lot of the season has been like less remembered by me than like the first 4 seasons. I don't know why, but maybe they just didn't get shown on reruns as much or something.
I mean, I feel like there's some good ones that stand. I mean, just Trials and Tribulations.
Yeah, it's
Looking
like
for Carmack in all the wrong places. Is the title is always memorable for me. Dr. Bashir, I presume. So there's a few that stick out really well, but I can see what you mean.
Yeah, and there was another one I was thinking about too. The Assignment. For some reason, I always remember The Assignment pretty well.
In Purgatory's Shadow and By Inferno's Light, like that's a pairing that is just so standout that I couldn't forget that.
So I don't know, but anyway, so thank you for joining us today. If you like this discussion, maybe you'll like our discussion of the whole Michael Eddington story arc. Go find all those episodes, listen to them. You can find those episodes, all past episodes, and future episodes if you're listening in the future, wherever you're listening to this. If you want to leave comments, you can do that on YouTube. My name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you for our next discussion. But remember, don't stand between me and the blaze of glory.
All right, interesting.
I'm going to blaze that glory.